In a global agreement that freed 20 individuals, Moscow released journalist Evan Gershkovich and fellow American Paul Whelan, along with dissidents like Vladimir Kara-Murza, marking the conclusion of the largest prisoner swap between the U.S. and Russia in post-Soviet history on Thursday. Just before midnight, Gershkovich, Whelan, and Alsu Kurmasheva, a journalist who holds dual citizenship with the United States and Russia, arrived on American territory to celebrate a happy reunion with their families. Along to welcome them and give hugs to everyone in attendance were President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Despite the fact that ties between Washington and Moscow were at an all-time low following Russian President Vladimir Putin's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022, the transaction proceeded. Backchannel negotiators once considered a meeting with Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny. However, following his passing in February, they managed to put together a 24-person agreement that secured freedom for a number of journalists, suspected spies, political prisoners, and others in exchange for major concessions from European allies, including the release of a Russian assassin. As he welcomed the families of the returning Americans to the White House, Biden heralded the exchange, by far the largest in a string of swaps with Russia, as a diplomatic achievement. However, the agreement, like others before it, revealed an inherent imbalance. Russia released journalists, dissidents, and other people detained by the highly politicized legal system of the country on what the West believed to be false charges, in exchange for the United States and its allies giving up Russians accused of or found guilty of serious crimes. Deals like this one require difficult decisions, stated Biden. To me, nothing is more important than defending Americans both at home and abroad, he continued. As per the agreement, Russia freed Wall Street Journal writer Sergei Gershkovich, who was imprisoned in 2023 and found guilty in July of espionage allegations he and the U.S. government strongly contested. His family expressed their excitement to give him the biggest hug and see his sweet and brave smile up close in a statement made public by the newspaper. Emma Tucker, the paper's chief editor, referred to it as a joyous day. We were resolved to be as vocal as we could be on Evan's behalf while we awaited this historic day. We really appreciate all of the voices who spoke up during his silence. At last, we can all say, "Welcome home, Evan," she said in an online letter. Whelan, a Michigan corporate security executive, imprisoned since 2018 on espionage charges that both he and Washington have refuted, and Kurmasheva, a journalist for Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty, found guilty in July of disseminating false information about the Russian military, charges that her employer and family have refuted, were also set free. Among the dissidents freed were some of Navalny's colleagues and Kara-Murza, a Pulitzer Prize-winning writer and Kremlin critic who was serving a 25-year sentence for treason on accusations that were mostly believed to be politically motivated. Oleg Orlov, a seasoned human rights advocate, found guilty of undermining the Russian military, and Ilya Yashin, a prisoner condemned for opposing the conflict in Ukraine, were among the freed opponents of the Kremlin. Vadim Krasakov, who was sentenced to life in prison in Germany in 2021 after killing a former Chechen rebel in a Berlin park 2 years prior, ostensibly on orders from Moscow's secret services, was obtained by the Russian side. Moscow had been adamant in demanding his release during the talks, and Putin had brought it up directly. Authorities were talking about a potential transaction involving Krasakov around the time of Navalny's passing. However, as that possibility vanished, top American officials, among them National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, launched a new campaign to persuade Germany to free Krasakov. Ultimately, a small number of the detainees whom Russia freed were either dual German-Russian citizens or citizens of Germany, along with the 3 men charged by federal authorities in the United States: Roman Seleznev, a convicted computer hacker and the son of a Russian lawmaker, and Vadim Konashchenok, a suspected Russian intelligence agent accused of supplying American-made electronics and ammunition to the Russian military. Russia also received 2 alleged sleeper agents imprisoned in Slovenia. Poland brought back a guy it had imprisoned on espionage accusations, while Norway returned a scholar who had been jailed on suspicion of being a Russian spy. According to Biden, Today is a powerful example of why it's vital to have friends in this world. All total, 6 nations have freed at least one prisoner, while Turkey, the 7th, took part by providing the venue for the swap in Ankara. Prioritizing the release of American nationals unfairly detained abroad was Biden's top foreign policy goal for the final 6 months of his presidency. Speaking on his decision to withdraw his candidacy for a second term in an Oval Office speech, Biden said, "We're also working around the clock to bring home Americans being unjustly detained all over the world." He once took Elizabeth Whelan's sister's hand on Thursday and remarked that she had essentially been living in the White House as the government attempted to release Paul. Then, gesturing for Miriam, Kurmasheva's daughter, to approach, he grasped her hand and announced to the gathering that she was turning 13. He invited everyone to join him in singing "Happy Birthday." She brushed away the tears in her eyes. More than 70 Americans who were jailed abroad have now been returned home by the Biden administration as a result of agreements that forced the United States to turn over a wide range of convicted felons, including those with drug and weapons convictions. Despite being widely welcomed, the exchanges have drawn criticism for giving enemies power over the United States and its allies and encouraging future hostage-taking. Roger Carstens, the chief hostage negotiator for the U.S. government, has attempted to justify the agreements by claiming that while swaps have grown, the number of Americans unfairly incarcerated has actually decreased. We know the U.S. government is keenly aware, as are we, that the only way to prevent a quickening cycle of arresting innocent people as pawns in cynical geopolitical games is to remove the incentive for Russia and other nations that pursue the same detestable practice, wrote Tucker, the journal's editor-in-chief, in response to the debate. Even though she suggested that the relationship be altered, she noted that, for now, we are celebrating Evan's return. The 24 convicts who were traded on Thursday exceeded a 14-person agreement made in 2010. In that deal, Moscow deported 4 Russians, including double spy Sergei Skripal, who was collaborating with British intelligence, while Washington released 10 Russians who were sleeping in the United States. In 2018, he and his daughter suffered from nerve agent poisoning in Britain, which was attributed to Russian operatives. Confluence of strange circumstances, including a breathtakingly short trial for Gershkovich, which Washington considered a farce, had fueled speculation for weeks that a swap was imminent. He received a 16-year sentence to serve in a maximum security facility. Kurmasheva was found guilty in a covert trial that lasted 2 days during the same week as Gershkovich's. The claims against her included disseminating inaccurate information about the Russian military, which was denied by her company, family, and American officials. In recent days, a number of additional individuals detained in Russia for opposing the conflict in Ukraine or for their involvement with Navalny were transferred from detention to undisclosed places. While traveling to Yekaterinburg in the Ural Mountains for a reporting assignment, Gershkovich was taken into custody on March 29, 2023. Authorities said that he was collecting top-secret intelligence for the United States, but provided no supporting documentation. He traveled to Russia in 2017 to work for the Moscow Times newspaper after his parents, who were Soviet immigrants who resided in New Jersey, passed away. In 2022, the journal employed him. Both Gershkovich and Whelan, who were held in December 2018 after visiting Russia for a wedding, were declared to have been illegally imprisoned. Serving a 16-year jail term, Whelan has been left out of previous high-profile agreements involving Russia. One such agreement was Moscow's April 2022 exchange of imprisoned Marine veteran Trevor Reed for Russian pilot Konstantin Yaroshenko, who was found guilty of a narcotics trafficking conspiracy. In December of that year, WNBA player Brittany Griner, who had been imprisoned on drug charges, was exchanged for the U.S.'s release of infamous weapons trafficker Victor Bout. Paul Whelan is unbound. Paul's family released a statement saying, "Our family is grateful to the United States government for making Paul's freedom a reality." The liberated Americans remained on the Maryland tarmac of Joint Base Andrews on a hot and muggy night, relishing the occasion of their homecoming to the United States. They hugged Biden and Harris, snapped photographs with friends and family, gave back pats to loved ones, and showered them with kisses. Biden once removed the flag pin from his own lapel and offered it to Whelan.